What's up, banana bunch? Bunch? Bunch?
Welcome to the Jungle Gyms podcast. What's up, Banana Bunch? You know what time it is? It's time for another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. I'm your host, Mark. Thank you so much for joining. Hey, look, we're in week 2 of our reformatted version of the show, so I want to thank you all for sticking around with me. Of course, if you're one of those audio listeners, I appreciate you so much. And if you're one of those YouTube watchers, I also appreciate you equally. Neither of you are more important than the other. And of course, this show will still be available on both platforms, but we're just sort of kind of finagling things around. So this week, we got a fun one. We cracked into some Parmesan cheese because, you know what? Jungle Gym is one of the best places in town to get really great cheese. As you can see me standing outside of the cheese department here, or hear me standing outside of the cheese department. And I think this should be a lot of fun. I've actually never cracked into cheese prior to the shoot. It was a lot of fun to learn about that kind of a thing. Look, I get all kinds of fun experiences, and I want to share them with all of you. Now, for those of you that are listening to the audio-only platform, you're welcome to stay, but if you want to see what's going on, I do recommend. I think this is an episode that plays a little bit better visually in some aspects, but it's still great to listen to. You'll still learn a lot. However, if you're on the audio-only platform, here's what you can do for me. You can do me a huge favor by giving me a review over at Apple Podcasts and let them know how much you love the show. It helps us be successful. You know the drill. You've heard this for months on and off. I've been trying not to ask too much recently, but, I want to hit those 200 reviews. Now, if you're on YouTube, I highly recommend, I don't even recommend it. I am near demanding you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you know when we have new videos coming out, and as I promised you last week, we're going to be doing some advent calendars on here. So there's a cheese advent calendar and there's a jelly advent calendar that we talked about last week. And guess what? Later on, you're going to be able to watch us go through that separately, and that's going to be YouTube exclusive. So head over there. It'll be a short piece. You'll have a lot of fun with us. That's all that matters. Fun and food and all of the other F words that matter. Okay, on that, I want you to meet the Cheese Tims. That's right, there's 2 of them. There's like 800 Tims that work in the store. It's almost confusing. As well as Jake, who's been on the show a couple times to talk about cheese in that world. I don't know about you. I'm ready to just crack into some Parmesan cheese. Let's go. Oh, and one more thing. Look, I'm just one person producing this show right now, okay? So there's 4 people in the studio, and there's a lot of physical activity and motion going on in this one. So bear with me. Sometimes certain people will be louder or quieter on microphones, but the great news is that I'm not a total idiot, and I promise you'll hear me. If you think there's a moment where you're like, what did they just say? Give it a few more seconds. I'll repeat it just to make sure that we're all hearing it on all platforms. But I think this is one of those things that was too good to not cut all that stuff out of, okay? Anyway, all right, meet Tims and Jake. Everyone, this is going to be a lot of fun. We were talking about, we've talked about Italy. We talked about all these different cultures, and we got thinking about, we have all this Parmesan cheese in here, and I think we're one of the rare locations that has the really good stuff, and we all thought it would be fun if we just, let's crack into some cheese and maybe learn a little bit about it. So I'll start with, to my left here, returning cheesemonger Jacob. What's up, Jacob?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. And then we have literally the Tim side of the table on the opposite side. Which Tim wants to go first? Left Tim, right Tim? Oh, you both pointed at each other. We're off to a terrible start.
I'll go first. So I'm doing fantastic. Tim Smith.
Tim, how long? You're a relatively recent addition to the team,
I'm a new
right?
addition. I've been here about 6 weeks, I think.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the family.
Thanks.
What exactly is your role here to be safe?
So my role is to work with both stores and to up our game. So find better relations with our vendors, some of our assortment, work on that, and just take it to the next level. We have a good team here, and I think we just go to the next level as a group.
That's awesome. I love that. And you've got a pretty extensive cheese background, right?
30 years.
Oh, wow. No
cheese
kidding.
Business, 30 years. I was originally a high school teacher.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I was supposed to be a high school history teacher, and I was in the Boston area. I don't have the accent, though.
Oh,
and
I'll let it slide.
I was a substitute teacher. If you remember what it was like when you were in high school, when you had a substitute teacher and used to abuse them, that was my life. And you're only part-time, so I started working for Whole Foods, and that's how I got in the cheese business.
Oh, that's so cool. Well,
Yeah.
welcome. Seriously,
Yeah,
I'm glad
thanks.
you're here. Thanks for taking the time to do this with us.
Sure.
And Tim, too, welcome. Well,
Thank
you've
you.
been with the jungle here quite a bit, right?
10 years on November 6th.
Oh my gosh, we're really close to it. So this should air right around your anniversary. So happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you here. And so what is your role within the cheese department?
I am the cheese shop manager.
Cool. And what exactly do you get to do? What's your day like? Besides us laughing and talking about classic
Busting
John
your
Byrne
ass.
era. Yeah.
Playing with a lot of skids, hanging out in the cooler for 3-4 hours a day.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, no, the usual.
Really fun stuff.
You were just talking about how much you loved the cooler.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. But you have a fun background too, though. And one of my things I like uncovering about people here at the Jungle are am I okay to ask you about that? What was your previous life, I should say?
I've had several.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, what, designer, fashion creator. I mean, you've done it all.
Yeah, I've got a bachelor's of science in fashion design, which I can make a garment from the sketch all the way to the finished thing. Can do the patterns, everything. I worked as a graphic designer for a very prominent local radio station for 10 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of. I was also a social media director for 6 years. Yeah.
So you know a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for vape shops actually.
Oh, really? How'd that go?
I went pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, until like the vape thing.
I also did social media for a hunting lodge.
Really?
Me?
Yeah, no, that sounds accurate, right? No,
Yeah,
funny.
it was because it is funny. It was because the client that we had thought I couldn't do it, and guess what? I could.
Right. I love that. That's always a good story. Well, of course. Congratulations on
Thank
10
you.
years. Thanks for being here.
You know, it's interesting. There's a lot of people in the cheese business are this way. You know,
Yeah.
There's a woman I know who is really successful in the cheese business. And she was a dancer. You know, there's a lot of liberal arts types, and people are very curious who are in the cheese business. It's a funny trade.
What do you think it is about cheese that attracts people of all different walks?
You know, I think it's the romance behind it because it's a fascinating product. I mean, all of these things come from milk.
Yeah.
And just all the ways that they are different and the different cultures associated with them. It's a fascinating product. You know, Roquefort cheese is, you know, one of my great loves, and it's an interesting podcast to have in the future.
I'd love to.
to. And so, you know, I think it's what attracts people to it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, just starting, we talked a little bit about this off air. There's obviously all these markings on the outside of the wheel here that everybody can see. What does this mean?
After you, man.
Well,
You
know-
are too polite for this show.
all right, well,
He's the new guy.
Somebody
Yeah, I mean-
stabbed someone already.
right,
With all
so-
these knives.
Yeah,
what are we
right.
doing?
So first of all, this right here, it says, you know, all these are aged 12 months.
Okay.
Okay, so all these are cow's milk. This is Parmesan Reggiano.
Okay.
I'm getting my mic here, so I'm in the right spot. So they're all made in the Parma region, cow's milk, aged 12 months. And so the first stamp here, it says Mar 20 is March
And I'm just looking at the other side,
2020.
make sure I've got it framed up okay on that side too. Does it have, okay, the date's on
Right.
that side as well. Awesome. Sorry.
And
Just want to make sure.
It should have a DOP stamp on it, which is a Donazione
It's like Origiente?
Origente Protezione, which is a name protected and protected cheese. So you just can't make a cheese and call it Parm.
Okay.
It's like
In
a
Italy.
copyright law.
Yeah, it's like copyright.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Right, you
Cheese
can't-
copyright.
Right.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
the laws in Europe for cheese are crazy.
Very strict.
Well, it's
Yes.
very strict.
Weird.
Well, it's protection because anyone could then. It's like patents in the United States. You
Sure.
can't make a Coca-Cola.
Yeah, good point. That makes perfect sense.
And about a year ago, there was a court case here where a judge in the United States said that a cheese made here could be called Gruyere, even though Gruyere is legally protected in Europe.
Oh,
It can
interesting.
only be made in a certain part of Europe to be called Gruyere.
That's so cool.
We don't recognize in this country these laws. So, for example, we produce feta in the United States. All right, you know, Odyssey feta, all produced in Wisconsin. But legally, we couldn't sell that in Europe because feta has to come from Greece. All right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea that these things. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you explain it out
perfect
that way.
sense. Yeah. So there should be a burnished side. You should have
think
that.
we got it
right
over
here, yeah.
Once
Do
you
we
have-
want to rotate it around so
Yeah,
we can
show
show
that
them?
around.
If you want to aim for the middle camera, rather.
This way.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
It's a big beefer.
Just on the stamp there, it's branded Parmigiano Reggiano, the year, the March 20, and then above it, the lot number, it's lot 961, and just
Because there's more than one producer of
Yeah.
this. And so what they'll do is they'll have each producer has a number on it, and they're all from where it says consorzio right here. And so that's like a group. So the consorzio is all the Reggiano Parmesan makers have an association, and then they all have their own standards. And it gets very particular about what the animals are fed, what time of year, the milk they use, and also the type of cow. So there's some that have a higher grade, they're called red cow, and then there's others that just have not standard cows, I mean, there's such a thing, but is not as specific.
Huh. Again, all things I didn't. That's what I like about this show is that I'm always like, I've eaten a lot of cheese, if you can't tell, but I like that I get a chance to learn a little bit more about it, and that there's all these extra facets to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, it is a fascinating product, especially this stuff.
So why? So you say especially this stuff. Why do you say that? Why do you say it like that?
Well, it's funny because I think we've all grown up eating Parmesan.
Right.
Right. I mean, I'm not from some foodie family. You know, I grew up with the shaker can of
course,
Parm, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all have experienced this in this room. And then when you taste something like a real Parmesan Reggiano, Grana Padano, something like that, it's like a wow moment, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Where you're just not sure. And I especially think now the more the articles come out about the graded cans being like, wood shavings in
Right,
addition
yeah.
to
Just
whatever
fillers.
filler. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so crazy. And it's funny because I keep thinking, I'm sure I've eaten it before, but I don't think I've ever just tried it separately, as silly as that
Right.
is.
Oh, it's incredible.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the best parts about your guys' department, right? Is that you have access
for
to
sure.
all this delicious stuff all the time.
Yeah, when we cut it, I usually just take all the crumbs and
Yeah.
because it's that good.
Well, it wears you out cutting it. You need to refill a little
Right.
bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Little protein.
You got to get some protein. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a low fat food or partially skim. Which is a low fat, but it's a partially skimmed cheese, which is always a surprise to people. And it has such incredible flavor, especially when you cut it open. The aromas when you crack it open, it's just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
As soon as you break it open,
I just love that it kind of permeates the whole production area when you cut through them.
Really?
It's awesome.
yeah, I mean it's everywhere. Yeah.
And I would assume the taste change. I mean, because right now it's pretty much sealed off from oxygen, right? So I'm assuming that it's like whatever. If we cut it immediately, it's going to taste different now than it will in like an hour, right? Is that crazy to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, the oxygen will start hitting in and it'll start drying out a bit. The peak is when we first crack it open. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The texture, the smell, everything will be right on point.
You mentioned the part skim in the production process. Are a lot of cheeses made with a higher fat milk, or is the partially skim thing, is that pretty standard?
That depends.
It varies. Just
From cheese to cheese?
From cheese, yeah.
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 Like Swiss Emmental, that is a part skim cheese.
Okay.
Okay. This one is part skim because they let the evening milk sit overnight, and then they skim off the fat, which is then used for the Parma butter.
Oh, okay.
That we sell. And then they add the morning milk, and that's what it's combined to.
Beautiful. And what is the exterior actually made out of in this case? Is it just the cheese itself?
That's cheese.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's got a little wax on it, doesn't it?
No. This is just it's just the oil from the butter fat.
That's amazing.
It's just been brined, and so the brine seals the proteins and allows the cheese to start hardening and then curing, and the end result is what you get. So the rind, the famous thing we always say is that the rind is edible.
Yeah.
That. When my earlier incantations used to throw it away.
Yeah. Well, they used to do that here too until I told them people will buy that.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask too, the shape. Is there any significance to the shape of cheese, or is it purely from like a storage standpoint?
I don't know on this one.
Yeah, nothing I've ever read about shape-wise with Parm. I mean, yeah.
Because I always wonder, I'm like, cheese is always in a somewhat wheel shape, and I kept thinking, is it just easy to move?
Well, that was why they originally did it, so they could roll it down the hill.
Right.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, that's okay. I was
No, seriously.
Cool. Yeah, see, that's it. Well, that'll be next time episode. We'll get some wheels. We'll roll down that nice sledding hill in the back. We'll see who wins.
See who dies when you get hit by this thing.
I'm into that too. Listen, I'll put there'll be a few students waiting at the bottom. They're interns.
I don't know if we can get the 120-pound Cotswold old wheel, which is what they traditionally roll down the hills in England. But
That's
We
amazing.
run after it.
yeah,
Yeah.
gosh.
whoever catches it gets to keep it.
Yeah, that hill looks like a nightmare whenever I see them running down. I was like, oh, how many ankles got broken today? All
Yeah,
of them.
exactly.
Well, so moving down the line, we have a lot of. I joked when you came in, Tim, that you were like the cheese doctor. And while I know that's not an official term, maybe I'll bestow it upon you later and get you an honorary doctorate of cheese.
Yeah.
But you had all these tools in your bag, and so there's obviously a lot of different tools on the table. What are we looking at?
So this is the traditional knives that you use for cutting parm, so
Okay.
Reggiano or Grana Padano. So there's 3 knives. There's actually there's 2 variations on this, but first was a scoring knife. So this knife.
Do you mind holding it up just a little higher above
So
the
this
cheese?
is the scoring knife. So this is the knife that we use to score the skin because it's really it's very hard.
Yeah.
So it only has a sharp point here, and so
like the little hook.
right. So this is what we use to score the skin.
Okay.
And then this is a cutting knife.
Okay.
Okay. And this is what you use to cut through. Some other versions are more like a point, like a pick. And then this is a cutter.
Yeah.
And then these are the almond knives. And these are what you use on the sides to create a space to open it up, and then you flip it over and then you crack it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So-
And all the shapes make a lot of sense. You mentioned on the cutting knife. So the one we've got here is like, I'm just thinking for the audio listeners. So it's like a long, almost like a wedge.
Well, here,
right?
We got 2 of them. Take a look.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's long. On the sides, you'll see that it's somewhat sharp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It's
Like
not.
a little action on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Drive a wedge.
So
in.
yeah, just you go in and you'll see it. Once we start scoring it, it'll fit right in.
It'll make more sense. That's cool.
Well, we don't use these these are more for show, for our production because we sell a lot of Reggiano.
Yeah.
I mean, how many wheels do we go through a week?
I mean, I could cut 3 in Eastgate.
I
You
would
guys could
say at least
you could do
5.
5 here.
maybe 7.
Yeah.
You're saying per week?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And
Yeah.
that's just
big.
one of the cheeses we cut out of the hundreds.
Was I wrong to say that we're one of the main games in town to get like the real stuff, or is
Yes.
that a little?
Well,
Okay.
we have the best price.
Well, of
Yeah.
course.
You can-
That's a Jungle Jim's price
Yeah,
manager.
you can get it. You can get it other places, but it's more expensive.
Good. Well, and this is as real as it gets. I don't think I've ever seen I don't think I've ever seen Parmesan in this format before. It's like,
Yeah,
what
this
it?
is
Got lots of wheels of it.
This is the real deal, But yeah, I mean, in terms of production, what we use in the back is very different. It's crank wire. I mean, when you guys jump in,
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
the crank wire?
It's basically a platform that you put the wheel on that's got a slit through the center that a wire comes up through.
Yeah.
The wire is attached to a rod with a crank,
Yeah.
and you just basically pull the wire up, put the wheel on it, and then crank it. And as you crank it, the wire is drawn through the cheese and cuts it.
Oh.
Super nifty.
I actually think you guys let me do this last year when we cut the big cheese over at Eastgate, right?
Yeah, you did
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
You came in the back room back there, yeah.
That was fun. Okay. Cool. Awesome.
yeah, I mean, you can do that in a wheel in 20 minutes or something like that.
You can crank it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with these, it's a lot more slow. It looks really nice and all that, but it's not very efficient for 5 wheels a week or through.
Oh, yeah, I can't even
it's-
imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know how efficient it would be for 1 wheel a week, as much as we sell.
Yeah, it's not really.
Because it would take a long time to do it.
This is a
and-
classic
yeah.
process, so I'm
Yeah.
here for it. I mean, it makes sense. You got to kind of machine through it at a certain scale. I get it. Well, what do we think, guys? Do we want to start scoring and chopping and breaking it open? Oh,
We do not have gloves. I need to go get gloves.
okay, cool. Well, we can pause on that so we can do this proper. Look at that. Tim making sure we're doing this proper.
Yeah.
Time out. And time back in. Okay. Well, you wouldn't be the cheese doctors if we didn't have to put on gloves for this, right, guys? So I'm scrubbing in. Yeah. Oh, you say that like I don't have one in here. Collected a lot of costumes in my days, boys. Okay, so what's the first step here? Walk us through. We're scoring the cheese first, I'm guessing.
Right. Score the cheese first.
Okay.
Without drawing a straight line at this point.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, some people draw a straight
Close.
line,
Close.
but basically what you want to do is you're going to take the knife, you go straight across.
Okay.
And we get to the edges, you have to break through, and then you go down each side,
Oh, okay.
right? And then you flip it over and you do the same thing,
Cool.
right? So
Awesome.
basically, you just kind of find it. And this cheese has been sitting out overnight
Okay.
because if we did this when it was cold, we couldn't use these knives.
We'd be breaking knives.
Yeah, we'd be breaking knives, we'd be breaking our arms, And that's why we use the wire back in the room, because you can do the wire when the cheese is cold. You can see there's this edge here is where it gets a little bit tough.
So just in case that didn't pick up well on audio, Tim was saying that we've left this out overnight because otherwise the knives would just be near impossible to cut.
The cheese softens up. It's a
Right.
little easier to score through once you get the knives in as well.
I want you to do the other side, so we don't have to flip this over. Yeah, if it was cold, you'll see in the center of the cheese that it's cold in the side, and inside the center as opposed to.
Still.
Yep.
So is usually overnight enough time? Or
Yeah,
is
overnight's enough.
Here we go. Cutting right through the March 20th.
Yeah, and I got one on this side, so we can just do it on both sides here.
My promo too.
You should come up here and try it yourself.
Okay.
We'll let you make the first stab.
Yeah.
Ooh, the first stab. All right, I'm sitting down. I'm waiting. I'm here for
We're
it.
talking about martial arts here. So
Yeah, exactly. Listen, whatever it takes.
So,
Hopefully, I still got a little of that finesse.
yeah, you get down to the edge here. So I'll tell you what, you want to pull it towards you, Jake. Yeah.
And for those of you listening in the audio version right now, this is a great opportunity for you to tune in on YouTube for some of these segments. Little promo, because I can tell you, like, all right, they're scoring the cheese right now. They're bringing the knives across and they're cutting little lines into it. It's amazing.
This isn't a golf show.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, that's what
you got the whole golf voice going on.
Ooh, some of the famous parm dust already. I'm into it. Don't clean it, guys. I'm going to use my mouth for that. All right, so now we flip the cheese over. We're scoring into the other side.
Yeah.
Looking good, gentlemen.
Yeah, so you have to eyeball it. I mean, it's hard to draw a straight line on a cave.
We'll still taste this.
Sure. But,
It just won't be as pretty.
right. That's how I've been describing myself for years.
And you eat with your eyes too.
That is true. Unfortunately for everyone who's known me. All right. Beautiful. Look at that.
Right.
The silence here, folks, is just the sound of everybody. Like, if you can imagine, I can't physically tell you yet, but I will when I stab this baby. But the actual baby, here it is. No, but I imagine that did not look easy.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so the next thing we do is take these almond knives and we get them into the corners,
Okay.
and now create some separation.
And I'm assuming they call them almond knives because of the shape.
Right.
Okay.
Get those in.
It's actually Dr. Almond.
Oh.
So kind of leave it in. All right, so it's like a handle,
Okay.
and then we start to cut.
Awesome.
Why don't you come on up?
Yeah, I'm going to. All right.
I think you need to play anticipation in the background.
Yeah. All right. So what's the move here?
Just straight down.
Just find a spot and go
Push,
for it.
push down.
Oh yeah. Take that cheese.
Bring it back and forth. You can see how it's starting to pull apart.
Oh yeah, get a little of the smell in there too.
Yep.
Smells awesome.
There you go. There you go. See, it's already pulling apart.
Heck yes. So now I can tell everybody later that I did this with my bare hands.
So now we flip it over.
Now you're a karate.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Yeah.
That's how I've been thinking. Look, I've been waiting for my Captain America rips apart the tree log moment. This is it, guys.
All right.
And it tastes way better than a tree.
Yeah, get these on the side here.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Is that all the way through?
Yeah.
Just pretend like I did something. Oh, sweet baby. Look at that. It's like
So,
taking a trip through a dairy mountain.
so here's a pick.
Okay. And what do we do with the pick?
You just break off a piece. Just take off a piece here and just try it out. You can see how soft it is.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. I'll try a little stabby guy.
There you go.
This is the freshest Parmesan cheese I've ever tasted in my life.
This is just the
Smells
aroma.
incredible.
Yeah, it really does. The smell is outstanding.
We're all cafelling here. Just
I imagine the shots are just all of our wastes right now. Cut to the cheese wheel. Oh man.
yeah, yeah, because it's just been cut. Just how moist it is, how fresh,
Yeah.
and the flavor. This is really at its peak right now.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
That's incredible.
The first time you do this, it's just like, hold me back.
Yeah.
Jake's jumping in already.
Yeah, I need seconds.
Yeah.
It's like the grapefruit on it is like the thing that really pops through.
I get a little like it's like citrus and nut. I
Yeah.
feel like is the. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah, sorry. Think that through. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's really good.
I haven't eaten dairy in 2 weeks, so this is my. I plan for this.
Yeah, this is nice.
Oh my god.
Yeah, going off of dairy is like sacrilege to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd probably go. Our bodies would go into shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
If only fashion designers would make things in my size more regularly, then I wouldn't have to cut cheese or dairy and.
I think you're doing all right.
Thank you. Do you like this one?
That shirt's pretty nice.
Awesome. I was really happy with it. I love the little poppies on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think there's like a sword or two hiding in here, which I thought was weird, but I'm into it. Beautiful. Okay, so we've cut into the cheese now. We've seen the inside of the wheel. Everyone here, this is the first time, I'm assuming for a lot of people to ever see this process done. And
Yeah, most people don't realize just what goes into this.
yeah, this is incredible. And again, so when you guys say we sell at the best price, and I'll say at the time of this recording, at least, what are we charging per pound?
$14.99.
That's amazing. And what would you say competitors are priced at? I'm thinking what, 22?
Lowest I've seen is Kroger's at $18.99.
Yeah.
But Whole Foods is up to $22, $23.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing that's interesting about this is that they're all buying from the consortium. So the baseline quality of Parmesan Reggiano is all excellent.
Right.
There might be buying from different producers, but again, the standards from the consortia are very strict. So the quality that we are selling is exactly the same as Whole Foods and Kroger.
That's amazing. I love it. I love a good price. So what's the next step at this point? I mean, I guess at this point, if you guys were doing this back, you'd have the wire cutter
Right,
crank it
right.
in, just cutting
Just
into pieces.
take it down smaller
Right.
and smaller.
Right. We go from half to quarters, and then keep cutting it down so we can get the right size. It's a little difficult because this bow, this concave shape, it's hard to get these perfectly, ideal pieces as opposed to a square block of cheese.
Sure.
It's challenging.
But are people weird about that? I mean, is that a weird question? I didn't think they'd mind too much, right?
No, they really don't. I mean, it's usually our best selling cheese every week, and people will buy it. I think we could cut them into shapes of drafts, and people would buy them.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
But I feel like
like,
that's a
they
whole
would-
different skill set.
Yeah, they just. I mean, people drive for this. I mean,
Well, why not? I mean, it's
Yeah.
a pretty significant discount.
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
when you think about it, it's not like you're buying huge pieces. Usually, I'm assuming, right?
Well, this is the one cheese people will buy
Okay.
in larger pieces because most people know that it'll last longer.
Oh, that's a good point. So then, I guess actually, let's play on that. How long can this stay, generally speaking?
Well, he would know better than I because he's worked with it more, but I'm going to say months.
Okay.
I mean, you can. I mean, there's a couple, concerns to be careful. Is that, I mean, you will get surface mold occasionally, and that's fine. You just scrape it off.
Right.
I mean, this cheese has a low what's called water activity, so it's not moist and wet. Let's say like a brie, and has a relatively low pH, meaning high acidity. So it's a safe food in terms of any kind of pathogens. So it will last a long time. You can freeze it if you wish. It's really stable. I mean, think about it. This cheese was transported since the Middle Ages on ox cart and everything else. So this is a food that is very, very safe and can last a long time.
This is maybe set. So you just brought up that era. Do you think the taste has really evolved over time as like production processes have changed and the quality of food in general on the planet has kind of gone up? Or do you think it probably tasted the same 1,000 years ago?
I don't know.
I would think that it has probably changed simply because what the cows eat has probably changed.
That makes a lot of sense.
I imagine the diet of the cows is a little different. I would venture to say it was probably earthier back in the day. I would have to, I wouldn't say funk, but just more
Like a barnyardy.
Yeah.
The other thing to add to that, because I think you're absolutely right that the diet of the cows would be different, more seasonal. And also the starter cultures are probably different,
Interesting.
that traditionally they would take the whey from a previous night and use that as the starter culture.
Right.
And now most cheeses have starter cultures from chemical factories, or that's not really the right word. It's a cheese producers that have different starter cultures to use. So I'm sure that had an effect as well. So between the diet and the starter cultures, I'm sure it tastes different.
Sure. I wanted to jump back also to the storage process. You mentioned maybe storing in the freezer, but the way you said it made me feel like that might be treasonous. So
It's just the purists in us.
no. Well, look, that's weird. The reason we have you guys is because you are experts, so that I'm asking questions to an educated audience rather than just like drones, right? And so my question would be, what are some great storage tips for, well, in particular, this cheese, or if it's something that's a more blanket approach, I'd love to know what the best way to store it would be.
I mean, with my stuff, so like when we put it on the shelf, we wrap it in the cellophane, tightest wrap possible on it, so less air touches the surface. When I take it home, I do pretty much the same thing. Just keep as little air touching it in the packaging as possible. And cheese is great because if it does get mold, it goes from the outside in. So you can just scrape that right off. You're fine right underneath.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
And with this one especially, all the mold is going to be on the surface because the cheese is too hard for the mold to penetrate. So that is, that makes it a lot easier if you do get mold. The biggest thing you got to worry about with any cheese, though, is drying out.
Oh, okay. Is there
because if you don't keep it in an airtight container, it will dry out. Okay. And we've all met the heartbreak of dried out cheese.
Yeah. Heartbreak of psoriasis.
That's what I was thinking. But no, the heartbreak of dried out cheese, yes. How many times have you gone to the refrigerator and got out that block of cheddar that you were just dying to put on your nachos? Half of it's dried out and cracked.
Yeah, I definitely did that.
Because you didn't wrap it up right.
I literally did that the other day with a piece of cheese, and I realized last night, I was like, oh no, I never sealed this back.
Yeah. I told you the heartbreak of dried out cheese.
For sure. Trust me, there's a lot of crying that goes on in my house. Typically cheese related, which is the weird part. How'd you know? This is awesome, guys. Thank you so much for diving in. Well, guys, as we wrap this up, so we've talked about our great prices on it, its availability. We've got a ton of it in the store. What might you recommend pairing with this if you just wanted to eat this straight up?
We have this aged balsamic vinegar that is really nice because it's sweet. It's sweet, has that vinegar aroma, but it's really it's like a syrup, and so the sweetness really goes well with this in terms of the salt. So it's just a really nice pairing.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You mentioned the citrus notes in there, and I almost didn't taste it until you said it, and I was like, oh, that's that flavor. I'm thinking, so I feel like that would be. That's really good. All right, well, let's next time you guys come in, I think we should do you said it was Roquefort, right?
Roquefort's an amazing cheese.
I look, if you guys want to come back in here every couple of weeks and we can do a new cheese demo, it doesn't have to be as intense or as lengthy as this one, but like I would love to learn about it. I feel pretty confident the audience would be into that, right? Everybody watching or listening. Let me know. Podcast@junglegems.com. Tell us if this was something that you enjoyed on the show. Well, gentlemen, Tim's, thank you. Okay, good to see you as always, buddy. Thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
pleasure.
fun.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the family.
All right, thanks.
And that's the show, folks. I hope you're enjoying. This is one last chance for me to say, hey, if you're listening on audio, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you sticking around here. I would love it if you could go over to Apple Podcasts and give the Jungle Gyms podcast a real nice review. It'll make me smile. But you can't see smiles, which is why I also put the show on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, once again, hit subscribe, hit the little bell next to it so that you know when we're putting out a new episode or sketch or a short segment or other S words that pertain to video stuff. I would love your support there so much. And you know what? If you're watching one of the videos, you know what helps us out huge? You could just leave a comment about anything. I mean, I prefer if it pertains to the video, but I'm not that picky at this point. We're pretty new at this. So thank you all so much for watching on both platforms. I hope you learned a lot about Parmesan. I hope you learned a lot about cracking into Parmesan. And listen, I got an office full of cheese, even though I shot this segment like a month ago. So I'm going to go eat some old cheese in my office. If you're here, come walk by and watch. It's very uncomfortable for both of us. And in the meantime, I'll see you out there in the aisles. I can't fit.
The Jungle Gyms podcast is recorded in the WJJI studio inside Jungle Gyms International Market in Fairfield, Ohio. The Jungle Gyms podcast is produced and hosted by Mark Borison.